Lately, I feel like I've been brimming. All of the seeds that I've been planting are starting to feel more like buckets of jet fuel that are a little too dangerously close to my toaster. So before I blow up and burn out on all of my pent-up creative ideas, why don't I unpack some of the things on my mind in the most suitable medium for meandering, melodramatic, miscellaneous rambles? But where do I even begin to unravel all of these threads? And why are all of these threads actually wires? They remind me of the tangled mess of veins right beneath my very skin. The heat from my CPU is warm, like a hug, so comforting in such a cold world. Or maybe it's a warm world. Or maybe it's a worm world. I used to think I could parse through the universe by learning as many facts as possible, but random facts in isolation are useless. It's the context and utility of a statement that gives it its meaning. And it turns out there are a lot of seemingly true things out there, and to determine how true they are, you have to read a lot of papers. Or you could take a shortcut and just trust other people, which is a necessary part of life these days, given the breadth of domains you can become an expert in and the limited amount of time that you have to do that. So you don't have to be an expert in everything. You can find someone in the Reddit comments who's an expert in whatever you're looking for. And sure, maybe the pseudonymous nature of the internet makes it difficult to verify anything some random commenter says, but the truthiness of the things you read online aren't all that important, so long as your attention eventually leads you to a shopping cart, along with all of the metadata about your preferences that led you to your purchase today. Okay, I like stuff as much as the next person. I have a lot of stuff. But it's good to acknowledge the nature of platforms that are built on an advertiser model that are incentivized to get you looking for as long as possible. And what's the best way to do that? Well, we discovered not too long ago that negative emotions are the best for engagement and virality. So that's the content that tends to be favored, and that's the content that we tend to see, and your reality is made up of things that you interact with and experience in life, and the internet is a part of life, and it's being overrun by people who want us to fight with each other so that we can buy more vitamins. Yes, be mad at that opinion you don't agree with. Be sad at how polarized our world is today, and be fearful that you will never be able to meaningfully make a difference. The world is just so complicated, but do you know what's not complicated? This kitty candle warmer. You know, for when your candles are out of wick and there's a little bit of wax at the end, or it could be used to warm your mugs. It's dual purpose. I'm a practical person and I have a black cat, so I have to have this. I think about a lot of things a lot of the time, and I think about the way that I think often until I get stuck in a recursive loop where units of time pass in the real world and I make no progression as a person because I'm stuck in the hyperbolic time chamber of my mind. It's a lot of scrutinizing and fixating on ideas that feel important because, well, now I've just thought about it for so long that it must be important, and I can't waste all that time that I just spent thinking about this thing. No thought in isolation is a complete representation of you. Thoughts are flighty, fleeting things, easily replaced when the attention is directed to the next new novel thing. Twitter is the perfect place for capturing thoughts, immortalizing a drop from your stream of consciousness into a collected corpus of curt creations, and before you know it, you've built a beast based on brevity, which you might misconstrue to be some sort of reflection or extension of yourself. I mean, that's why I downloaded my Twitter archive before I deleted it. My soul is in there. And that's kind of a weird feeling. When I highlight text and copy it, I can feel the weight of the clipboard on my mouse. My iMessage history contains so much of me that I can almost feel the writhing breath of my past through the touch screen. Let's talk about celebrities. I'm interested in the process of how one becomes a celebrity, how they deal with the commodification of their personhood, and how that manifests in their art.
It's one thing to ask for a picture, but to just take a picture of me is kind of weird, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
There are strangers taking pictures of me when I ask no more.
Something I find fascinating about celebrities, especially ones that have dealt with some sort of public backlash, is the way that they try to adapt in response to their public perception. As consumers or parasocial partners in this relationship, we even have a word for when this happens: rebranding. Or if you're Taylor Swift, then you rebrand the concept of rebranding into your eras. I'm always interested to see the way public figures rewrite their narrative, whether that be through visual, aesthetic, or behavioral changes. Even more interesting, though, is the way that some people vehemently oppose these changes. Do I say the word vehemently? Is that a word that I really say? Did I just write the word vehemently in here so I could feel cool? As though once the conception of a person exists in someone else's mind, they cease to be a complex being that gains new experiences and is shaped by their environment. The idea that people are relatively unchanging or should represent some core identity within themselves has always frustrated me. Phrases like, "that doesn't seem like something you do," in response to me doing that very thing, confuse me to no end. A lot of my navigation through life has been a constant struggle between many conflicting sides. sides. This unending effort to contain and define so that I might choose the appropriate label that will finally explain everything. Surely there is a combination of letters and syllables mashed together that will finally make me understand myself. If you're like me and constantly chasing the high of new discovery, you might find yourself rapidly morphing into shapes you can't even process yet, because you haven't given yourself a chance to rest and reflect and recontextualize where you are in life and where you're going. I feel like an unruly dog pulling along its owner, and I also feel like an owner trying to wrangle this unruly dog. The question of who are you is one that haunts me. I'd search for answers in my obsessions, my neuroticisms, my UQuiz personality test results, and now that I've figured nothing out, I've realized how completely silly it was for me to spend so much time agonizing over it. Who are you? As if that isn't a question that can be answered by the name tag on my Comic-Con badge. A more interesting question is, what is the madness that drives a person to do the things that they do? If you have a fixed idea of who you are, and you're too busy doing the mental calculus of whether or not you're the kind of person who would write a play or try stand-up, then how will you ever do anything that surprises you, changes the way that you view yourself, and invite new areas of growth in your life? Maybe you created the idea of the person that you wanted to be, or maybe someone in your life told you who you should be. If you've ever tried to chase that concept of a person, you'd find that being a person is so much messier and more complicated than any label or title or description could ever encapsulate. Once you let go of this idea that you have to be someone specific or define who you are, the paths forward are endless. Daunting, even. I'm reminded of how small I am compared to the vast infinity of knowledge that I will never know because my time with this existence is limited. The universe will never run out of things that bring me anxiety and dread. I can stress about anything. I can stress about everything. Though I haven't found any evidence that the universe will run out of things for me to love, so I'll just love as many things as I can while I'm still here.